Hello, it's me, Claire. I have another Henry and Mudge book, so I hope you guys are enjoying them. Henry and Mudge in Puddle Trouble. The Snow Glory. When the snow melted and the spring came, Henry and his big dog Mudge stayed outside all the time. That's kind of what I'm doing recently, too, with the weather getting nicer. I feel like I'm outside all the time. Henry had missed riding his bike. Mudge had missed chewing on sticks. They were glad it was warmer. One day when Henry and Mudge were in their yard, Henry saw something blue on the ground. He got closer to it. Mudge, he called, "It's a flower." Mudge slowly walked over and sniffed the blue flower. Then he sneezed all over Henry. "Aw, Mudge," Henry said. Later, Henry's mother told him that the flower was called a snow glory. "Can I pick it?" Henry asked. "Oh, no," said his mother. "Let it grow." So Henry didn't pick it. Every day he saw the snow glory in the yard, blue and it looking so pretty. He knew he shouldn't pick it. He was trying not to pick it, but he thought about how nice it would look in a jar. He thought about how nice it would be to bring it inside. He thought about how nice it would be to own that snow glory. Every day he stood with Mudge and looked at that flower. Mudge would stick his nose into the grass all around the snow glory. He never looked at it the way Henry did. "Don't you think the snow glory has been growing long enough?" Henry would ask his mother. "Let it grow, Henry," she would say. Oh, Henry wanted the snow glory, and one day he just knew he had to have it, so he took Mudge by the collar and he stood beside the snow glory. Uh-oh, I think he's going to pick it. "I'm going to pick it," Henry whispered to Mudge. "I've let it grow a long time." Henry bent his head and said in Mudge's ear, "Now I need it." And Mudge wagged his tail, licked Henry's face, and then put his big mouth right over the snow glory, and he ate it. "No, Mudge," Henry said, but it was too late. There was a blue flower in Mudge's belly. That did not go according to Henry's plan. "I said I need it, not eat it," shouted Henry. He was so mad because Mudge took his flower. It was Henry's flower, and Mudge took it. And Henry almost said "bad dog," but then he stopped. He looked at Mudge, who looked back at him with soft brown eyes and a flower in his belly. I don't think Mudge meant to eat his flower. Henry knew it wasn't his snow glory. He knew it wasn't anybody's snow glory. Just a thing to let grow, and if someone ate it, it was a thing to let go. Henry stopped feeling mad. He put his arms around Mudge's big head. "Next time, Mudge," he said, "try to listen better." Mudge wagged his tail and licked his lips. One blue petal fell from his mouth into Henry's hand. Henry smiled and put it in his pocket, and then they went inside. In April, it rained day after day after day. Henry was getting bored. Mudge was chewing up everything in the house, so Henry said, "Let's go play outside." He put on his raincoat and his sneakers and went outside with Mudge. He forgot to ask his father if it were all right. When Mudge stepped into the wet grass, he lifted his paws and shook them. "Too bad you don't have sneakers," Henry said, and he walked in a circle around Mudge. Squish, 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 squish. Mudge listened to Henry and looked at Henry. Then when he got closer to Henry and wagged his tail, he shook the water from his big, wet, furry body all over Henry. Henry wiped the water from his face. "Aw, Mudge," he said. The two of them went walking, and down the road they found a big puddle, a giant puddle, a lake puddle, an ocean puddle, and Henry said, "Wow." He started running. Mudge got there first. Splash! Muddy water all over Mudge. Splash! Muddy water all over Henry. It was the biggest, deepest puddle they had ever seen, and they loved it. When Henry's father called for Henry and didn't find him, he went outside. He looked down the road. Splash! He heard. He put on his raincoat and went walking. Splash! He saw. Henry's father saw Mudge with a muddy face, a muddy tail, and a muddy in-between. Henry's father saw Henry with a muddy face and muddy sneakers and muddy in-between. He yelled, "Henry, no more splashes! Just a boy and a dog dripping. Hi, Henry." Or "Hi, Dad," Henry said with a smile. Mudge wagged his tail. "Henry, you know you should have asked me first." Henry's father said, "I know," said Henry. I'm surprised at you, Henry's father said. I'm sorry, said Henry. I don't know what to do with you, Henry's father said. Henry looked sad. Then Mudge wagged his tail, licked Henry's hand, and shook the water from his big, wet, furry body all over Henry and Henry's father. Mudge! Henry yelled. Henry's father stood there with a muddy face and muddy shoes and muddy in between. He looked at Mudge, he looked at Henry, and he looked at the big puddle. Ooh, what do you think is going to happen next? I have a guess. Then he smiled. Wow, he said, and he jumped in. He splashed water on Mudge, he splashed water on Henry. He said, next time ask me along. Henry said, sure, Dad, and Henry splashed him back. That's what I thought was going to happen. In May, the cat who lived next door to Henry and Mudge had a litter of kittens. There were 5 kittens. 1 was orange, 1 was gray, 1 was black and white, and 2 were all black. The kittens sometimes stayed in the box in the front yard to get some sun, while the mother was resting. One day, Henry and Mudge peeked at the box. They saw tiny little kitten faces and tiny little kitten paws, and heard tiny little kitten meows. Mudge sniffed and sniffed and sniffed. He wagged his tail and sneezed and sniffed some more. Then he put his big head into the box, and with his big tongue he licked all 5 kittens. Henry laughed. Do you want some kittens of your own? He asked Mudge. Mudge grunted. He wagged his tail again. Whenever the kittens were in the front yard, Henry and Mudge visited the box. Henry loved their little noses, and he even gave them names. He called them Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Henry loved the planets, too. While Henry was at school one day, a new dog came up Henry's street. The 5 kittens were sleeping in the box in their yard. Mudge was sleeping in Henry's house. When the new dog got closer to Henry's house, Mudge's ears went up. When the new dog got even closer to Henry's house, Mudge's nose went in the air. And just when the new dog was in front of Henry's house, Mudge barked. He barked and barked and barked until Henry's mother opened the door. And just as Mudge ran out the door, the new dog was in the neighbor's yard looking at the kitten's box. And just as the new dog was putting his big teeth into the box, Mudge ran behind him. Snap went Mudge's teeth when the new dog saw him. Snap went Mudge's teeth again when the new dog looked back to the box of kittens. Oh, I think Mudge is trying to protect the kittens from the new dog. Mudge growled. He looked into the eyes of the new dog, and he stood ready to jump. And the new dog backed away from the box. He didn't want the kittens anymore. He just wanted to leave. And he did. Mudge looked into the kitten box and saw 5 teeny faces and 5 skinny tails and 20 little paws. He reached in and licked all 5 kittens. Then he lay down beside the box and waited for Henry. Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn went back to sleep. So I don't know if that new dog would have hurt the kittens, but Mudge really did a great job protecting them. He definitely loves those little kittens, so I hope you enjoyed.